Welcome to the first ever Monster Brawl. 32 monsters enter, 1 leaves. And today we're checking out Division 1 as 8 monsters will go head to head bracket style where you picked the winners. And I'm your host Josh Spiegel, and I am joined today by my co-host Manic Mike Mangles. How are you today, Mike?
Ooh, I am ready to see some battling beasties, some sparring species, some wrestling raptors. I want to see creatures going toe to toe, to claw, to fang, and blood. I want to see lots and lots of blood.
Loving the enthusiasm there, Mike. So let's get down to it. In round 1, we're looking at Ursus Mutatus from the movie Annihilation. And I don't know about you, Manic Mike, but I only want to look at it for a very, very small amount of time. I've seen my share of average bears, and this one is definitely a bit larger than those, and it's definitely meaner, and it does possess some rudimentary mimicry skills, but it doesn't appear to be able to see that terribly well, which could be a detriment in a fight like this.
You know, Josh, not seeing ain't gonna help you when you're up against the arachnid, which looks like some kind of sort of organic Swiss Army knife to me. It's got these things here, I'm gonna call them pinchers, and they'll spike you quick. And then it's got this thing. What's this thing called?
I'm going to go with mouth.
It's mouth, yeah! That thing looks crazy, and I've seen it cut people in half, and I'm gonna bet that it does the same to bears.
Well, I think a lot of people agree with you, since the arachnid wins with 79% of the vote versus 21%.
Looks like this is barely a fight.
Round 2 gives us a real powerhouse with the undisputed king of vengeance, the Pumpkinhead.
His head don't even look like no pumpkin.
I have seen my share of pumpkins in my life, and I'm pretty sure that if I have found one that looked like this, I would call for an exorcism on the whole patch.
May the power of pumpkin spice compel you.
Pumpy has a distinct advantage here. He is very tall and has a massive reach, capped off with some sharp claws, not to mention his strength and seemingly human-level intelligence. Plus, let's not skip over the fact that he's basically invulnerable, and the only way to destroy him is to kill the person who summoned him.
Well, he better summon up some scuba gear because his opponent is the merman from Cabin in the Woods. And you know what, Josh?
What's that?
Everything's cooler with the merman.
No doubt, they are terrifying, and I hear that the cleanup on them is indeed a nightmare.
What else is a nightmare? That mouth of his, filled with lots of sharp teeth, all the better to bite you with and spew your blood out of its blowhole. But with that big fishtail and no legs, he's at a bit of a disadvantage.
Indeed, so in our quest to make this a fair fight, we've actually placed both opponents in the water, which you would think would actually put Mr. Head at a disadvantage. But it does not, since he's able to win this whole thing pretty easily with 82% of the vote versus the merman's 18%.
These have been some blowouts so far. Let's get that cream to rise to the top.
Well, this one's pretty creamy, since we've got Kothoga from The Relic, who was a human being at one point, transformed by a soup.
A soup?
Presumably a chowder.
Well, that don't sound too tough to me.
He is tough, with a scaly hide, massive tusks, and big old claws to scratch you with. Kothoga still maintains a human-level intelligence and can actually scale walls if need to be, but has an apparent vulnerability to being burnt up.
He's facing down the Bioraptor from Pitch Black, and wait a minute! Aren't these things like little gizmos in light?
Yes, they are extremely photosensitive, so in order to make this a fair fight, we've lit the arena with a special UV filtered light that does not hurt the raptor, and yet makes it possible for Kothoga to see.
Okay, that fairs it up a bit, but I should point out that although the Bioraptor has some handy wings and this tail thing that can use as a spear, and even though it's blind, It is extremely sensitive to sound.
It seems like the ability to fly gives it a bit of the edge that it needs, and thankfully Kothoga doesn't know the meaning of the word stealth.
I should point out that neither do I, but I'm gonna look it up right after this is over.
Flying in that spear tail gives the raptor the edge to take the day with 63% of the vote versus Kothoga's 37%. Okay, here we go with the final matchup of the division, and it's a pretty peculiar one. On one side, we have the Homo Aquaticus from Leviathan, which is sort of an underwater version of the Thing in a way.
Just not as cool.
Just not as cool. But he does have a pretty solid array of offensive weaponry with that mouthful of fishhook teeth, and it's pretty fast moving. It also has the ability to absorb its opponents, taking on the traits of their DNA and adding their body mass to its own, kind of like the Thing.
Just not as cool.
Just not as cool. Also not as important to the plot of the film. But it is in the same spirit.
Well, his rival has spirit, Christmas spirit, and if you don't have it, he's coming for you, and it's the Krampus.
Isn't there actually like 100 movie Krampuses by now?
There is, but this is the real deal from the movie Krampus. He's big, spooky looking, and mysterious as we never get to see him. I don't know what he does. He sort of warps reality, and he's got a cadre of minions to call upon.
Cadre?
I had to call upon Google to look that one up myself.
Well, since this is a fair fight, there's no minions allowed, but he's still magical.
Magic versus science, this ought to be good.
This is a good fight, but it looks like, just like in real life, science always wins, as the Leviathan manages to get a grip on the Krampus and absorb him in the end. But it was as close of a call as we're gonna get this round, with the aquatic guy eking out a mere 51% of the vote against Krampus's 49%.
Now that was a close call.
Well, that wraps up Division 1. Here's how that bracket is looking so far. Tune in soon, very soon, for Division 2 and beyond as we weed out the opening group of monsters.
You've gotta subscribe! Just do it now! Body slam that button and like the videos with your puny little finger!